Hare Krishna, today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Questions by Vidura, Text 24. Tatastvati vrajya surashritam ridham Tatastvati vrajya surashritam ridham Tatastvati vrajya surashritam ridham Saviramatsyan kuruchangalamscha Saviramatsyan kuruchangalamscha Kalena tavat yamunamupetya Kalena tavat yamunamupetya Tatrodavam bhagavatam dadarsha Tatrodavam bhagavatam dadarsha Tatastvati vrajya surashritam ritam Saviramatsyan kuruchangalamscha Kalena tavat yamunamupetya Tatrodavam bhagavatam dadarsha Tatastuti vrajya surashritam ritam Saviramatsyan kuruchangalamscha Kalena tavat yamunamupetya Tatrodavam bhagavatam dadarsha Tataha, from there, to, but, Ativrajya, by passing over, Surashritam, the kingdom of Surat, Ridham, very wealthy, Savira, the kingdom of Savira, Matsyan, the kingdom of Matsya, Kuruchangalan, the kingdom of Western India, up to the Delhi province. Cha, also, Kalena, in course of time, Tavat, as soon as, Yamuna, bank of the river Yamuna, Upetya, reaching, Tatra, there, Udavam, Udava, one of the prominent Yadus, Bhagavatam, the great devotee of Lord Krishna, Tadarsha, happened to see. Translation and purport was Divine Grace of Bhaktivedanta Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Thereafter, he passed through the very wealthy provinces like Surat, Savira and Matsya, and through western India, known as Kuruchangala. At last he reached the bank of the Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotee of Lord Krishna. Purport. The tract of land comprising about 100 square miles from modern Delhi to the Mathura district in Uttar Pradesh, including a portion of the Gurgaon district in Punjab, East India, is considered to be the topmost place of pilgrimage in all of India. This land is sacred because Lord Krishna traveled through it many times. From the very beginning of his appearance, he was at Mathura in the house of his maternal uncle Kamsa, and he was reared by his foster father Maharaj Nanda at Vrindavan. There are still many devotees of the Lord lingering there in ecstasy in search of Krishna and his childhood associates, the gopis. It is not that such devotees meet Krishna face to face in that tract of land, but the devotees eagerly searching after Krishna is as good as is seeing him personally. How this is so cannot be explained, but it is factually realized by those who are pure devotees of the Lord. Philosophically, one can understand the Lord Krishna and his remembrance are on the absolute plane, and that the very idea of searching for him at Vrindavan in pure God consciousness gives more pleasure to the devotee than seeing him face to face. Such devotees of the Lord see him face to face at every moment, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.48. Premanchana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva ridayesha vilokayanti yam shyama sundaram achinti gunasvarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Those who are in ecstasy of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shyamasundara, Krishna, see him always in their hearts due to love and devotional service rendered to the Lord. Both Vidura and Uddhava were such elevated devotees, and therefore they both came to the bank of the Yamuna and met each other. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Gananjana Jadakaya Chaksharan Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakaramayam Darate Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakalmanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrachatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Varan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Kopesha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamame Hare Priya Vancha Kalpadurabhascha Kripa Sindhya Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So we're in the beginning of 3rd canto, where we heard so far how Vidura was traveling on pilgrimage after having been insulted by Duryodhana, his nephew, and so that he took this opportunity to engage in full devotional service. And we heard how he reached many different places, and that in all those places there were beautiful temples with beautiful deities of Krishna, and how, in that way that helped him even more to always remember Krishna. Although we know, as we heard in Prabhupada says in today's purport, quoting Vidura as one example of this famous Premanchana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena verse from the Brahma Samhita, that he already is a pure devotee. We know he is actually incarnation of Yamaraj, so he is one of the Mahajanas. But nevertheless, he took pleasure in visiting all those different temples and tirthas, and so now finally in today's verse we come that he met one of the very great devotees of Krishna, namely Uddhava. We know in Dwarka, Uddhava is the closest friend to Krishna. He is always with him. He even looks almost like him, because like one explanation given, I think, by the acharyas is that because he is always there with him, always serving him as a servant, but as a friend, so that he also always gets all the Mahaprasad from Krishna, including Krishna's cloth, and so he's literally always in direct touch with Krishna, getting even the cloth of Krishna. So he is a very elevated devotee, we know, of course, and Vidura finally here gets the fortune to meet such a devotee who, as Prabhupada explains at the end of purport, that both of them, Vidura and Uddhava, were such elevated devotees, and therefore they both came to the bank of the Yamuna and met each other. So, in other words, because they are such pure devotees, always naturally seeing Krishna everywhere, due to the ointment of love on their eyes, that like, it sounds like if you think, well, the devotee, if he is already on that platform, then he is always with Krishna anyway, so what's the need then even to meet another devotee like Uddhava and inquire from him humbly about Krishna's pastimes? But Prabhupada says it the other way around, that both Vidura and Uddhava were such elevated devotees, and therefore they both came to the bank of the Yamuna and met each other. So, in other words, the more we are advanced, the more eager we are actually to associate with devotees, and Krishna naturally is obliged to such devotees, and so he arranges that they do meet each other, as we see here in this section of Bhagavatam. And first Prabhupada explains a bit about Rajabhumi, Vrindavandam here on our planet, where it is situated, and that then he points out that the significance, the greatest significance of this land is that not only that Krishna came here personally, we know he's actually always there, even in his personal form, in his aprakata lila, in the form which is unmanifest to our material eyes, but we know, of course, that 5,000 years ago he appeared in his prakata lila, showing externally his mercy also to all the souls who are not qualified to actually see him. And so in that form he's not present there now, as Prabhupada explains here. So there's so many devotees there looking for Krishna, but actually there's no possibility of them seeing Krishna face to face, as Prabhupada says here, in that form, in the prakata lila form. But still, Prabhupada then points out that how are they seeing him? They are always hankering to see him, they are always in separation of Krishna, and try to follow in the footsteps of these greatest devotees of Krishna who are in that mode, in this Ripalamba, especially the gopis. And this Prabhupada explains here, that is even a higher level than actually seeing Krishna face to face. So those devotees, they don't even... Yes, of course, they want to see Krishna. That's their hankering. They want to see Krishna, they want to please Krishna. But actually, Krishna knows that the ecstasy is even higher by not seeing him, but by having this intense hankering. That's one of those beautiful paradoxes we see in spiritual life on the highest platform. And so, and we see that also, like we know, Prabhupada at the time said that we are in our sampradaya, coming from, in our Gaudiya sampradaya, coming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then to the 6 Goswamis, that we are headed by Srila Rupa Goswami, that we are Rupanugas. So we try to follow into the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, and thus his books are especially important to us, like Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion. But what was their mood? As we know, the 6 Goswamis, they were like that. They never, even though they are on this highest platform, they are always with Krishna, always seeing him naturally due to their love of God. But they never think that I have attained Krishna, and now I have, now I've reached that platform where I always see Krishna and I'm always with Krishna, so I don't need to worry to find him. No, they always have the mood to where is Krishna, always thinking themselves so unfortunate of not being able to see Krishna. But paradoxically, that's the highest platform of ecstatic love for Krishna, and that's how actually the highest ecstasy is felt by the devotee, and by Krishna, of course, also, when he sees devotees with such intense love for them. And so that's, of course, on the one hand, it's for us, we think, well, where are we? We are struggling to chant our rounds, to do whatever little service we are doing, follow the principles and everything. So that's like so far away. Why do we even talk about it? But actually, still, even though, of course, we should be humble. We shouldn't think we are sahajivas, and imitate to be on such a platform, but at the same time, it is something we should, first of all, we should hear about these highest forms of ecstatic love for Krishna, because we know even hearing is one process of devotional service. So simply hearing, first of all, purifies us, gives us association of Krishna and of his devotees, and also it does slowly it does instill a desire to become like that, actually, because even just hearing about it is such a pleasure. Like who, and this otherwise in material life, what can we? I mean, who can even think of something like this? No one. It's completely inconceivable, and it's and yeah, even though we are on a lower platform, still just hearing that it gives naturally such pleasure to the soul, because that's the highest platform of pleasure which is there in all existence, with experience between Krishna and his pure devotees. So yeah, we should hear about it first of all, and yeah, the more we hear about it, it doesn't mean we skip other parts of Bhagavatam and don't bother about hearing about the miseries of material life and other devotees on different stages or in different rasas with Krishna. No, we should hear everything. We know humility is one prime quality that we need to develop as devotees. So and one aspect of that is that we want to know everything about Krishna, hear everything, and we don't jump. We always know we have to remind us of the basics, and one part of Bhakti Yoga is realizing more and more how material life is full of miseries and full of problems, that we should get more and more detached from it, and at the same time hear about the sweetness and greatness of Krishna, to become more attached to Krishna, to shift our attachment from matter to spirit. And but we are still attached to matter to some degree or other. So we need both. So we can and should hear also about these highest platforms of love, even though we are so unqualified. It's by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the Acharyas and our senior devotees, spiritual masters, we are still able to at least understand it and to some degree, so that we don't offend, and that we can at least appreciate, and thus we can take benefit of developing at least the desire to come there and to slowly imbibe the mood of such great devotees. And so yeah, and even on a practical level, like as we said, the mood of the 6 Goswamis and of such of the gopis, of such great devotees, is that we never think we have achieved Krishna. So that's like one basic mentality, actually, in complete contrast to material life. Where in material life we think we want to master something. We want to, if we like practice something or engage in something for a longer period of time, then we want to come to a stage where, okay, now I'm good at it. Now I don't need to take guidance anymore from superiors, and I don't need to even maybe practice anymore. I've mastered it, so I've achieved some certain goal or something like that. But in spiritual life, it's not like that, and it will never be like that, as we see from this greatest devotees, that even when you are actually on the highest platform of pure love of God, you still never feel like that you have achieved something. You always feel in need of more association of Krishna and of development of more love of God. You never think that you actually have love of God. So yeah, those kind of paradoxes, they are amazing to appreciate, but they also show us that we, even in our stage, we should be on guard on a feeling of, oh, now I've mastered something in my devotional life. No, our mood is always, we always want to improve, and we always think that we have to improve and increase our devotional service and our practices and everything. So of course over time we will become better in certain things that we do, like playing instruments or in all our services that we naturally, when you practice, when you do something for a longer time, even on the material platform, then you becomes more natural and you become better at it. But to speak of if you engage in Krishna consciousness, where Krishna is there to help us, especially because he wants us to be successful, he wants us to come closer to him and to be enthusiastic in our devotional service. So he will help us and he will help us to improve. But then, when after Krishna helping us, then we should never come to a point where we think, oh, now I've mastered it, oh, I'm so great, because that's then Maya, and it's the complete opposite of what's actually exhibited by those greatest devotees, that we always feel, in that sense, always incomplete, which is funny, because otherwise before coming to Krishna consciousness, we always look for, we feel there's something incomplete, and we want, like people think, they want to find fulfillment, they want to feel complete sense of achievement. But yes, on the one hand, it is only possible by coming to Krishna consciousness, because yes, it's only on the spiritual platform that we can actually feel fulfillment. But this fulfillment, it's in regard to material things that we become free from material desires, so we don't hanker for anything, we don't lack anything. We are naturally, the soul is naturally blissful, we are naturally happy. So in that sense, yes. But on the spiritual platform, on the higher platform, still actually, as we explained, it's you actually feel never that you have achieved, you never feel complete, you hanker for more and more. But that very thing is the greatest mercy of Krishna, to increase the highest ecstatic love more and more of the devotee. And so that's what Prabhupada pointed out here about the special significance of Vrindavan, that not only was it there that Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, exhibited all those amazing pastimes that we are hearing now and that will always be heard and we are meditated upon and give all the devotees such joy and bliss, but that it is especially there then that the devotees want and are cultivating this mode of separation of Krishna, which is quite funny. I think like the very place where, the only place in this universe where Krishna personally came in his original Shyamasundara form and exhibited his most intimate, most ecstatic pastimes, that Prabhupada points out here, but this more significant than that is that actually devotees there have this mode of separation of Krishna. Just like for a materialist, again, like it would sound crazy, isn't it? Like, first of all, people don't even know much, of course, about like actually how huge the universe is, how many planetary systems there are, how many different living beings there are, and all of that. And that within this universe, there's only this one place in current India, in Vrindavan, where Krishna personally appeared like that in his Prakata Lila. But still, the highest in all existence is this pure, highest ecstatic love in separation of Krishna. And and actually coming back here to Uddhava, whom Vidura met here at this point, even Uddhava himself, actually he's even though a very elevated devotee, but he's a devotee of Dwarka. He's a close friend there with Krishna, but he doesn't actually have the mood of the gopis, of what we just discussed here. So, but we know the pastime that when Krishna sends Uddhava to Vrindavan to bring a message to the gopis who were so-called suffering so intensely in separation of Krishna, which of course is the highest pleasure actually. Because the thing is, even though Krishna knows that is actually the highest bliss in all existence, this intense pain from separation of Krishna, but still, at the same time, even though he knows it's the highest pleasure, still he feels that he can't bear it also, seeing them so-called suffering so much, his devotees. So that's another paradox, and that's why Krishna then tries to also sometimes mitigate it, because he just, even though he wants to instill it more and more, and does, to increase his love of and with his devotees even more, but still then sometimes he feels that, oh, I can't bear it anymore, seeing them in such pain. So then he does things like sending Uddhava, his closest friend from Dwarka, to the gopis to bring them a message about how he will come back very soon, as he had actually promised long before. And trying to console them. And Uddhava had a great fortune there. We know another reason, as it's explained, why Krishna sends Uddhava there is because Uddhava is so dear to him, but then he knows, well, compared to the Rajavasis, still actually you are unfortunate. You don't know what real love is. You don't know what the highest love is. And so he gives him this opportunity to witness this mood of the gopis there in their madness of separation of Krishna. And so Uddhava, comes there. First, of course, he goes to a house of Maharaj Nanda and Mother Yashoda, so he sees their ecstatic love, which is already overwhelming to Uddhava, how they are, how they also, of course, can't bear separation from Krishna, and in what pain they are. Like Mother Yashoda, she can't even see Uddhava actually because of the being flooded by her tears, with her tears, and so but then I think it's the next day then or so. Then when he meets the gopis, it's even more intense. And as we know, for example, Srimati Radharani, the supreme gopi, she has this famous talk with a bumblebee, which all of it is so beautifully. They are described by Shukadeva Goswami in the 10th canto. And but the point here is that yes, Uddhava, he got to witness that, and he realized that yes, actually all of us devotees in Dwarka, we think we're so fortunate we have Krishna there and we get so much association with Krishna, but actually, we don't know what real love is. Those devotees here, they are separated from Krishna on the external level for such a long time now, but their love is completely beyond anything imaginable. And so naturally then, in his humility, he does, and appreciating this pure love, he has then also a desire to, to have this love, although actually, we know he's Nitya Siddha, so the devotees, they are in their eternal constitutional position. So his mood is eternally with Krishna as Uddhava, as a close friend in Dwarka with Krishna. But at least he felt so humble and wanted to have the desire to get the mercy of those greatest devotees of the gopis, and so that's why he then, we know, famously prayed to become a creeper in the forest of Vrindavan, where so that hopefully the gopis will someday trample on him, and thus that he will get the dust of the lotus feet. Because of course he knows that they would never be ready to give the dust of their feet